Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today is a podcast special. Another one. Interesting. This is a special of Paul Williams giving us a rundown of WrestleMania 34. We played a little game where I tried to guess the winner of each match, which was fun. And Paul gives us quite a detailed rundown. It was a natural two-parter because we had to go out halfway through. So we stopped it there, and then a few days later started it back up again with the second part and the back end of WrestleMania 34. So give it a listen and see what you think to this. This is Cookiecast WrestleMania special with Paul Williams.
Right, podcast time, let's do this. Paul Williams. Starting to get to the point now where I don't know if I need to invite you back rather than ask you not to come back. Maybe it's that thing now that I was like, oh, it's fine, don't need to come this week.
Yeah, we've got it covered, so don't worry about it. Yeah.
I think you are, I don't know, are you the most podcasted person on the Cookiecast?
I mean, it must be. It's probably getting up there. I mean, I've not. I must admit, I am yet to partake of listening to anything other than the first cast.
Wow. That first cast has got loads of views and then it's just dropped off massively after that. It's just like a falling graph.
That's bad. That's bad for me. Because I'm number 2.
I don't know.
I'm number 3, I think.
It's one of those things that I don't know how vain this sounds, but I uploaded your last podcast the other night, and then I was like, oh, I'll just click it to make sure it plays and stuff on YouTube and stuff. And then half an hour later, realised that I was essentially just listening to me and you talk. Yeah. I was like, listen to my own podcast. What does that say? So,
yeah, that's the thing. I haven't listened back to the first one yet, so. But I'm sure even Taz.
But this was the second one. This was the most recent. This week's upload. So to fall in line with Leanne, you are going to offer up a podcast special today.
Yeah.
And what is that podcast special?
So, for those who might not be aware, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's Christmas
for wrestling fans.
I was going to say it's like April.
Yeah. So basically, this time of year is affectionately known as WrestleMania season,
which essentially is the Super Bowl for wrestling.
Yeah, the Super Bowl of the WWE as was, or WWF as was.
So you are going to give us one hell of a rundown of WrestleMania. I want to say 34.
Yeah, it was WrestleMania 34. Oh, so the question is, I mean, do we start with WrestleMania 34 or do we start with the NXT show from the night before? Probably best just to dive straight into WrestleMania, to be honest with you.
Well, what's the reference? What's the relevance of the NXT?
So now
NXT?
Right. So this is the thing. So about 5 or 6 years ago, they decided. No, probably longer than that actually. Probably about 7 or 8 years ago, they decided that because there was no more big companies left other than themselves, they needed to start making their own place to hone and craft their own talent to move forward. So they basically ploughed X amount of millions of dollars into this thing called the Performance Center, which is in Orlando.
Okay.
And basically they sign up all these different wrestlers from across the globe.
Yeah.
Send them to the Performance Centre for however many, months, years, however long they think they need. Get them trained, get them polished in the way that they like to do TV, the way they like to do the wrestling shows and stuff like
that. Okay.
And then they put them on this NXT TV. So NXT is like the developmental thing for WWE, and that's where you get a lot of the guys who sort of wrestle there, and then 6 months, 2 years, whatever, down the line, they'll then move them up to the main thing, so they'll either be on Raw or SmackDown.
Okay.
and then they'll know how to.
So it's like crafting your own talent sort of thing.
Basically. It's almost like the closest example I could think about it would be in like baseball, for example. You get your major league teams,
and
then they've got affiliates that play in like AA baseball or AAA baseball and stuff like that. So they'll send. The best example would be that the New York Mets have signed Tim Tebow to a baseball contract and have him currently playing in one of their like AA leagues or AAA leagues or something like that.
Okay, fair one.
So technically, the start of WrestleMania weekend is actually the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Yes, the Hall of Fame is quite a big ceremony.
Which is on the Friday night.
Okay.
Then you have the NXT Takeover event on the Saturday.
Okay.
You then have the main WrestleMania show on the Sunday.
Yep.
And then you've got Raw and SmackDown on the Monday and the Tuesday after.
Right.
And both of those, all those events are technically live.
Mm-hmm. Because I've seen the last Hall of Fame I remember seeing anything of was Booker T.
Jesus Christ, that's like 5 years ago.
I thought that was maybe a couple of years ago. Okay, because he did Spinneroonie on the stage.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Classic Booker.
Yeah.
Had
to take his jacket off.
Obviously.
His suit jacket off.
He probably split his trousers as well doing it.
I think he hoisted the trousers up to do it.
He's such a douchebag.
But he's 5-time.
He is the five-time. Yeah, so... Yeah, it's where do you want to start? I mean, it's up to you.
Right. Any major names that I would know that were put into the Hall of Fame?
So, there were, I think, 8 inductees.
Okay.
The head of the class. No. Sadly, I don't think Mr. B
Chris Benoit
will ever be taking his rightful place in the Hall of Fame. Which is such a shame because he was a really good
fantastic wrestler at the end of the day.
You know, you can't really slaughter your wife and son and still manage to, get in Vince McMahon's good books, I don't think so. Right, so I don't know, do we need to do spoiler alert at this point? I mean, it's in the record books.
Yeah, I suppose anybody who's interested would probably know by now.
You'd imagine so. It's nearly a week after.
Could essentially look it up.
Yeah, so we'll
I'm gonna
go
when I top and tail the episodes, I'm probably going to top this episode with Paul Williams is going to give us a rundown of WrestleMania
so
weekend.
If you've not seen it, stop now.
If somebody's going,
I
didn't see WrestleMania, but I'll listen to the podcast where I know you.
I'll tell you something. Some might say that you don't need to listen to you don't need to watch WrestleMania. You can just listen to this.
Your rundown could be
and I will
enough.
basically just give you a blow-by-blow account of all things.
This is the
WWE.
thing, because to be fair, I would potentially not watch it at this point in time because I missed it. That ship has sailed. However, as I've already said on this here podcast, there's a high chance I'll probably end up listening to this.
More than likely, and it'll when we get to the end. There's something you might be quite interested in, but obviously, so massive hook to keep people listening all the way to the end. But so yeah,
I don't want to ruin it because I'll just start throwing out names.
Obviously,
and I imagine one of those names might come up.
Maybe.
So Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Go.
So the headline inductee of the Hall of Fame this year was a gentleman you all know.
Mm-hmm.
He looked an awful lot like Stone Cold Steve Austin in his pomp. And it is Goldberg.
It has to be Goldberg.
So Goldberg was the main guy.
I remember, because this shows my limited knowledge. Goldberg was from the other people. Who were the other? CW.
There we go.
So he was from there, and then he was hired by the WWE. And came in, and I remember the match where they were in like perspex cages in the ring, and Triple H, then Goldberg, and part of me wants to say, was it Shawn Michaels?
He was it? Well. Oh my God, he's on a roll. Keep going.
And the other part of me wants to say, because I think it was somebody big, so some part of me wants to say that I thought it was Brock Lesnar, but I'm not.
He got on wrong.
But it's somebody huge.
The show you're talking about was SummerSlam.
Yeah.
In 2003.
Yeah.
And they were in the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
And the way that works is you've got 6 people. 4 are encased in their own pods in the corners of the corners of the chamber, and then 2 guys start the match. Now, I don't know off the top of my head who the other 3 were that were in it.
All I remember, and the reason I remember was because it was this huge thing that Goldberg, this massive bloke, he's fucking huge, or it was back then.
He's hench. He's pretty hench.
I think he was in the pod, and Triple H had got a sledgehammer and was using the sledgehammer to smash the door of the pod in.
I don't...
Or something.
Yeah, maybe not.
But basically...
Because Triple H was in the pod, and Goldberg was out of the pod, waiting for Triple H to come out of the pod, and Ric Flair was on the outside and held his pod closed. So instead of waiting for it to be open, Goldberg decided to kick the Perspex door.
There was something about smashing the door in, but I remember this whole thing about Goldberg being this massive bloke, and spoilers, it's only, 15 years ago. But yeah, Triple H beat him by beating the shit out of him with a sledgehammer and then just pinning him and walking away. And I sat there going, "Fuck you! Not that big a bloke, is he? Got taken down by a sledgehammer. Fuck off." And was then a bit like, that could have been when I started cheering that, because I was well pumped for that, and then I was like, this could be it for me.
Yes, that's not for me. Right,
so Goldberg
was the top guy.
Is he still huge?
He's still pretty massive. So he's like 53 or older now.
Right.
And he had a comeback last year.
Wow.
And you'll kick yourself now, because he was facing Brock Lesnar in last year's WrestleMania.
Shit.
So he was the main guy. As well as him, there was a woman by the name of Ivory, if you remember her. So she was like late 90s, early 2000s-ish.
It's not a name that's jumping out at me.
Mark Henry.
Pound for pound.
World's strongest man,
Mark Henry. He was in a documentary I watched recently.
Was it something about Eddie Hall?
It was something about Eddie Hall. And him just saying how massive Eddie Hall is and what a beast he is.
Classic. Who else was there? I'm trying to think. So there was 8. 2 of them you won't know, because... 2 of them. I said 2 of them you won't know. One of them you won't know because he was like he's just like a Make-A-Wish childish type thing. He's a young lad who's in America who's done loads of stuff for organ donation.
Okay.
So he was given the Warrior Award.
The Ultimate Warrior Award.
Yeah, so there's an award that's been named after the Ultimate Warrior, having the fact that he died mere days after being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe I was notified of this by landing back from Houston.
Yeah.
On my connecting flight back from New Orleans, turning my phone on, and I had a text off you just saying, "Holy shit, have you seen the Ultimate Warrior died?" I was like, "Well, no, I hadn't, funnily enough, because I've just been flying back from bloody America." So it was like, "Oh, no way," because I'd literally seen him like 36 hours earlier or something like that.
So at this part, I could relay the story that was going around the office when we heard that the Ultimate Warrior died, and we then worked out that you were a Russian spy who had been sent on a mission to New Orleans to assassinate the Ultimate Warrior and then come return, probably not knowing anything about it, like some deep coding into
I see.
brain.
A bit like oh my god, spoiler, it's that. Oh, it's the bit in spoiler alert again in Kingsman, when Colin Firth's character.
When he switched.
They sort of like
and kills everybody.
Just kills everyone in that church.
We spent a little while calling you Conrad Williams.
Brilliant. Obviously, of course you did. The celebrity inductee.
Why am I cringing at the sound of that?
So it was, I believe he goes by Kid Motherfucking Rock.
Oh jeez.
So he went in.
I'm getting a little confused at this point because I'm not hearing wrestling names. I'm hearing other people. Why did Kid Rock get inducted into the Wrestling Hall of Fame?
Because they have celebrity sort of inductees. Such as Donald Trump.
Oh jeez.
Is in the WWE Hall of Fame. Snoop Dogg He's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Oh, brilliant. I did like the picture that came out just after Trump was elected president. That was
Yeah.
Trump's like some of Trump's fan, and then like a load of wrestlers in the Oval Office.
It was the McMahon family.
Yeah, and the caption was 78% of this people, 78% of the people in this room have been stone cold stunned.
Unbelievable. So good. Who were some of the other ones that went in? Hillbilly Jim.
I'm out on that one, I'm afraid.
The Dudley Boys.
Wow,
We do know them.
we do know them.
I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but I can't think who it is off the top of my head.
Dudley Boys still in it now?
So one of them's
Because they came back, didn't they?
Bubba Ray.
Yeah.
Still wrestles, but with other companies.
Oh,
And Devon is now what's known as a road agent.
okay.
So he helps put together the matches and stuff.
Fair one.
I'm sure there is somebody else, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It's going to do my head in. So that was on Friday night.
Okay, so I'm intrigued by this NXT thing.
Right, so
hit me with this.
So the NXT thing, the idea is that obviously they wrestle each week. So they've got a 1 hour show every Wednesday that's on the network. That's the only
network.
the WWE network. That's the only place you can get it. And it's just like a scaled down version of Raw or SmackDown, basically. In that it's just an hour long, and they still have matches and they still have interview segments and stuff like that. And it's basically just exactly the same as that, but it's only an hour. And it's always recorded in the same location rather than touring it around the country. Sometimes they do go out and do tapings elsewhere, but not the majority of the time. It's recorded in Full Sail University in Orlando.
Okay.
So,
It's good to live that one,
but for the purposes of the main event, so they always do a takeover event just before the main pay-per-view. So they always do one before Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series.
Does it have any relevance to the pay-per-view? Is there any connection, or is it just
To WrestleMania?
Yeah.
No, so it's a standalone
So it's
thing.
just a show.
Yeah, so if you
Right.
think of NXT as Raw and SmackDown in the same sort of regard, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, all the other pay-per-views are linked to what you've seen on Raw and SmackDown. And that's just basically how these takeover events work for NXT.
Oh, okay.
So NXT takeover was quite good. They introduced a new championship in one of the matches. So there was a ladder match for the North American Championship.
Okay.
And that was probably the best match I saw of the weekend.
Really?
Really, really good. The guy who does commentary is called Mauro Ranallo. And he's been doing the commentary for them for like just about a year or so.
Okay.
And he's very, very passionate. He always just goes well over the top and like stuff like that, like saying like "Mamma Mia" and stuff like that. But he's very good. He's very knowledgeable what he does, and he does work for Showtime Boxing.
All right. Okay.
Well. I don't know if he ever did any UFC stuff, but he used to do the commentary for New Japan Pro Wrestling for TV as well.
Wrestling's huge in Japan. That's most things.
So so that was good, and then they had the women's title match. Was Shayna Baszler, who's one of Ronda Rousey's mates.
All right.
From the UFC MMA world. And she was going up against a girl called Ember Moon, who was the champion. And Shayna Baszler won. So she's the new NXT Women's Champion, and Ember Moon has now run off to Raw.
Oh wow!
So basically, after like once or twice a year, they'll do like a roster move.
Yeah.
And they take people that have been in NXT for a long time, or they feel they've got to the stage where they can do no more there, and they're ready to go up to the main sort of show, and they move them up to the main roster, and they'll get them on either Raw or SmackDown. And that's what happened to Ember Moon this weekend.
Oh, nice. So she lost and got moved up.
Generally, that's what happens. Yeah. So you'll lose your last match in NXT, and then you'll get moved to the main roster. where you'll then just go
Clearly
and
proving
nail
you are the
somebody.
best.
Yeah. So it was called doing the honours.
Okay.
So you put someone over, terminology there.
That's terminology.
You put someone over on the way out to make them look better, and then it's like that's your parting gift to the company. And then when you turn up in the new company in Raw or SmackDown, you generally just run through about 5 or 6 people who just look terrible, and that's just how it works.
Okay. Fair enough.
There was a tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championship, and that was between the Undisputed Era.
Is that a name?
That is the name of the group, and the tag champ should have been Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, but sadly
Bobby Fish.
I'm pretty sure that's his actual name as well.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to check that now.
Bobby Fish.
Bobby Fish.
No.
Oh, it's gonna do my head in now.
Bobby Fish. Come on.
So he was supposed to be he was supposed to be in the match, but I think he tore his knee, or he did something to his knee. Robert Anthony O'Fish. So which is weird because he's in a tag team with a guy called Kyle O'Reilly, and I'm pretty sure that's not his actual name. Yeah. So his name does have an O in it, and he's in a tag team with a guy whose name has an O in it, but it doesn't really have an O in it.
Ooh, so
it's a bit weird.
That's a little confusing.
So they were up against the Authors of Pain, who is 2 absolute bruisers who have the Legion of Doom's ex-manager running around with them.
Good luck.
And they were up against a guy called Roderick Strong and the WWE UK champion, Pete Dunne, who was just a guy from Birmingham who was 24 years old, and he's awesome.
Nice.
Pretty good wrestler. And the Undisputed Era retained when Roderick Strong turned on Pete Dunne and shafted him. Gave him the shaft.
Not a turncoat.
So that'll be interesting to see what happens in the next coming weeks with that.
You were saying about terminology.
Yes.
I was, because I can't even think what I was listening to or watching when they were talking about baby faces. And I can't think what the bad guy thing. There's the baby face and the heel. Yeah. And I could never really get the getting someone over. I'm not sure. I think that's where you'd get the crowd to like them or something.
So the term get
someone over.
The term getting over means you're getting popular with the crowd.
That's what I thought it meant.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good guy, a face. You can be over, but you can be over as a heel. So you could be a very convincing bad guy, or you can just be a really sort of. A lot of people tend to like the heels more than the faces anyway.
And that's what they'd sort of said. It must have been the Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, probably. And what happens is normally you'll get really hot as a heel. So you'll be really good as a bad guy, and then they'll turn you into a good guy, because that's basically how that always works. Psychology of wrestling companies is that to be a good guy, you must first have become a really good bad guy, and then have seen the light, I suppose would be the way to describe it.
Yeah, there's a Japanese anime called Naruto, and that is their entire principle of that entire show, and there is about 600 episodes. There's two sort of series of it. The original series has 220 episodes. And at the last check, I'm pretty sure that the follow-up series was up to something like 500 episodes. And the entire principle of that show is all of the bad guys are just good guys that haven't experienced love, sort of thing.
Oh my god, that sounds so confusing. How the hell could you keep up with it? Oh, I'm saying this. Monday Night Raw has just celebrated 25 years of being on the air, and
it's on weekly.
And it's on weekly, and I think they've got over like 1,200 episodes now.
So
I'm saying, how the hell are you supposed to follow that? But obviously they just go in cycles of storylines and stuff like that, so that makes sense.
I had to read the second lot of it because it had too many fillers in. Just like you'd be well into the story, and then it'd go, yeah, now we're going to show you something you don't care about for 30 episodes, and I'd be like, I can't do this, I can't do it again, because the original series did it really badly, but the second series did it so much worse, and I was like, I can't do this. So I just read the books, and the books, it's like all action, no filler.
Fair enough. So after the tag team match, there was 2 matches left. So not the main event was for the NXT Championship. So the main title wasn't the main event.
Oh,
so there's something a bit baffling.
All
so
right.
the title match was a guy called Andrade Cien Almas, who was the champion, going in
3 times fast,
going up against a guy called Aleister Black, who was the challenger.
Really?
And Aleister Black came out victorious and the new NXT champion moving forward. So Aleister Black's he's from the Netherlands.
Really?
So he's a European guy. So they seem to sign quite a lot of. Basically, the way that it works is that they tend to sign a lot of people who are on the independent scene and have a lot of buzz. So they'll sort of keep an eye on the independent, see who's got,
chops,
something about them, and then they'll basically just watch them for about 6 months to a year, see if they like what they see, sign them to a big contract, put them in this performance centre, coach all the stuff out of them they don't like. So make them like, so basically you'd have a certain style of wrestling, and they might decide, not a big fan of that, let's stop him doing that.
Beat out of you.
And start him doing this instead. And then you're ready to go on to WWE TV.
It's proper crafted like art form.
They put so much time and effort into it, it's ridiculous.
I suppose it's big business and anything.
Well, yeah, that is
worth money is worth.
Until he like launches the XFL in a couple of years' time, that is all they do basically, is produce wrestlers and then try and make money from those wrestlers. So it makes sense to have this performance centre where you can polish people up and make them what you want them to be.
It was always the thing that got me about that whole thing, and I know I'm almost sure we had a conversation on a previous podcast about how it's not a great business for looking after the people in it. And I remember
it's getting better.
There was a conversation, I don't know whether you and I had it or I heard it somewhere else, that The Rock was like up at the top end of the scale for payment wise, but even his contract was only like $3 million or something, to the equivalent of what Vince McMahon was going to make off the back of him, which was hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, yeah, that's it. So I think, as it stands, the guy who's got the best contract in the company is obviously Lesnar. Right. So apparently when he signed a couple of years ago, his initial contract that he signed for was $5 million. And I'm pretty sure of that $5 million, all he had to do was make 10 dates. So he was basically getting paid $500,000 for showing up.
But if you think about, like, because I will always go back to NFL players. And NFL players, you've got players that are getting signed for $100+ million. And fair enough, they play, but it's 4 months of the year that they have to play once a week and train and stuff like that.
The thing with NFL contracts is they're not, they'll sign like, I think like, so say if they sign like an $80 million contract, only $35 million of it's guaranteed. So the rest of it's all made from whether they get so far in the playoffs, whether they get into the Super Bowl, whether they win a conference championship, whatever.
The one I remember was Manning's last year.
He'll have been handsomely paid for that,
but it was all like he said, I want this much money, and they went, we'll give you $3 million less than that as your contract, we'll give you the rest if you win the Super Bowl. And that's why that Super Bowl felt a little bit orchestrated, maybe. It was a very strange Super Bowl, if you ask me that one.
It was kind of like perfect for him to go out on.
That's why I feel it was a little orchestrated, because it looked very. I mean, the Panthers didn't.
It was the worst game they'd played all season.
Yeah,
and it just so happened
to be the Super Bowl,
the championship game. So,
anyway, that's NFL, and this is wrestling.
Yeah. So the main event.
NXT main event.
NXT Takeover
was not
main
the
event was not
championship.
for a championship belt.
So it has to be bigger than the championship.
So it was a personal issue.
Oh,
and as everyone
they
knows,
were beefing, yo.
Oh God, they had serious beef. Man.
They were beefing.
Serious beef.
Did one of them put the other on blast? No, you don't know that one.
WTF?
You don't know blast?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's like.
Is that like Grindr, but in America?
Like shouting about them on social media, I think. I think that was it. I don't know.
I have absolutely no idea what these words.
Neither do I. I'm trying to stay down with kids.
No. So
they didn't put them on blast.
They did not. So they'd be beefing you. It was Johnny Gargano, affectionately known as Johnny Wrestling, going up against his former tag team partner, Tommaso Ciampa.
Oh my word! These fucking names.
I know, amazing. But I'm pretty sure Johnny Gargano is his real name.
Ah, what?
I'm sure it is. I'll have to check that one out as well. Bloody hell's sake.
That can't be a real. It's got to be a wrestling name.
Johnny Gargano, professional wrestler, and his real name is John Anthony Nicholas Gargano.
Ah, there you go.
So it was Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa, and they had previously been the NXT Tag Team Champions.
Did one turn on the other
until NXT Takeover Chicago last year, where they had an excellent match against the Authors of Pain.
Okay. I
believe in a ladder match, I think it was, and they sadly did not win that ladder match. And at the end, Johnny Gargano took a pretty brutal ladder shot to the face, and then they were on the stage at the end, and they were sort of hugging and making it all good and stuff like that. And then Tommaso turned and rammed him into the boards, into the Titantron and the staging area. And then he slammed him through a table and did loads of bad shit to him. So this has been. Unfortunately, when he did that though, he tore his ACL.
Oh, brilliant.
So I'm assuming the idea was going to be that they would have this.
Have
this huge beef, this huge blow off, and then they'd have a nice big program with each other for a couple of months, and they'd both be sent on their merry ways to Raw and SmackDown. Sadly, knee goes awry, and it's taken until
out for the season.
About 2 or 3 months ago to get back. So it was like May, I think, last year, sometime around there. There was this NXT Chicago one, and he's recently come back and started up beefing again with old our good mate Johnny.
He be beefing, yeah.
So that came to a head at NXT Takeover New Orleans.
And
the stipulation was that Johnny Gargano had been fired. Well, not fired. He'd lost the match and therefore had lost his contract with NXT. So it was an unsanctioned match. So the ref turned up in just a plain black t-shirt as opposed to the zebra stripes that he'd normally be wearing. So it gives it more of a feel of this isn't supposed to be happening, yo. So it was an unsanctioned match, and the idea was that if Johnny Gargano won,
get his job back.
He would get his job back in NXT.
Got my job back.
Whereas if Tommaso Ciampa was to defeat Johnny Gargano, then Johnny Gargano would be banished from NXT for all eternity. Can we see where this is going, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm starting to get a feeling that I know the outcome of this match. Did he win and get his job back?
So pretty back and forth.
Obvious.
I think the match was about 40 minutes long, so pretty lengthy. Pretty lengthy match. Good match, pretty solid. Both men put their all into it. This is the problem though. So NXT's got so good that it's probably better than the other shows. So people probably enjoy watching the NXT stuff more than they do Raw and SmackDown.
Brilliant.
To a certain extent. And then obviously like your big events on Raw and SmackDown are going to be pretty huge. So yeah, Johnny Gargano pulls out the W and is reinstated as a member of the NXT roster. So that was that. That was Saturday night, done and dusted.
Almost like it was meant to be.
Almost like it was scripted that way. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? So then we roll around to WrestleMania Sunday.
WrestleMania.
Obviously, the best Sunday of the year. Some people might say it's Super Bowl Sunday. They're obviously wrong. I mean, at least I know that WrestleMania is staged.
Right.
Are you telling me that the Super Bowl couldn't be staged? Or hasn't been staged, as we've just discussed?
I am saying that there is nothing that couldn't be...
Well,
especially with the sports betting.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, like I've said in many different sporting events, that people stand to lose or win a lot more money if a particular team loses or wins than they could ever make winning.
Well, yeah,
so,
true.
You know, things like that sway things.
Yeah, very true.
As we know, no sport personality has ever been accused of any... Yeah, can't get through that sentence.
Well, that's just the way it goes, isn't it? So, WrestleMania Sunday. The festivities start at 10 p.m. UK time.
10 p.m? What happened to
1 in the morning?
Yeah.
Like a sensible time. Yeah. So the pre-show... So this is 2 hours before the main event starts, as in the actual WrestleMania main card. So 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. New Orleans time. Oh, it might have been 4. It might have been 4 p.m. I can't remember the time zones and that. So 10 p.m. it starts. So I sit in, settle in, TV's on, got my drinks by my side, got my
few beers.
Well, I wasn't having beers because I was just on my own this time.
Bit of jerky.
Oh, I should have got some jerky. I mean that is the one thing that was missing from my WrestleMania experience. I had to make do with salted caramel peanuts.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing.
Ooh, they're not bad. They're a bit odd at first, but then you have 2, and then you're like, do you know what? Yes, please, I'll carry on with it. But I tell you something, if you wash them down with a handful of honey roasted cashews as well.
I must say I'm a little puzzled by the lack of beer.
It was just because I was on my own, and I was like, do you know what? There's nothing sadder
than
a grown man sat on his own watching wrestling at 30. Did I say 31? I think I probably did. Nothing sadder than a 31-year-old man sat on his own having a few beers, tucking into his salted caramel peanuts, whilst watching wrestling, and going wild for stuff. I'd like to point out at this point that I was not going wild.
No,
just a regulation reaction to all things that I saw in front of me.
You were a 5.
Yeah, I was on a 5. You don't want to see me on a 7 or 8, So, starts at 10. They do a lot of talking for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then we get the first match of the evening, which was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale.
Boom.
So this is something they've done for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So it started at WrestleMania 30, which, as we may have already discussed previously, I was in attendance for.
You were.
I was in the New Orleans Superdome, or the New Orleans Silver Dome, as Hulk Hogan incorrectly said at the time, and was ridiculed by 70,000 plus for the fact that he's basically just losing his mind. So yes, Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So it started at WrestleMania 30. The idea is that it's anyone who doesn't have a match on the card.
Yeah,
is basically put in this match because they can't think of anything else to do with them. So it's basically a way of getting them on the card so they can have a payday. So I think it used to be that it was 30 men, but now it's just a case of it's as many as they can be asked to put in it, or as many people as they've got there to put in it, and so that. So the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was won by Woken Matt Hardy. This will mean absolutely nothing to you.
Well, you say that. I know who Matt Hardy is.
Yes.
Woken?
So, back in TNA, Matt Hardy developed a character called Broken Matt Hardy, which was born out of the fact that he had lost the TNA championship and had started a feud with his real-life brother, Jeff.
Which was the one that did all the drugs in the world.
Basically, yeah, Jeff.
Jeff did all the drugs.
Jeff, he loves a nice Moorish bit of crack, a nice healthy bit of heroin. A couple of snorts on his crack pipe.
He did all the drugs.
He does like it. He does like the drugs. So yeah, I believe it was born out of that, and this character just sort of took off, and for like 18 months, it was pretty much all people were talking about in wrestling. So it was probably the biggest thing in wrestling, and he wasn't even in the WWE at the time, which is saying something.
Wow.
So at last year's WrestleMania, he and Jeff both got re-signed, turned up as a surprise in one of the tag team matches, won the tag titles.
Nice.
And then Jeff, I think, broke his shoulder, or had to have shoulder surgery, maybe about 6 months ago. And within the last 6 months, Matt Hardy's redeveloped this broken character, but he wasn't allowed to use the word broken because TNA held the trademark to it. So instead, they decided to call him Woken instead of Broken, and it's basically the same character with all the same elements to it, and he's now doing it on WWE TV. So he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal when Bray Wyatt, a guy that he's been having a feud with for the past couple of months, turned up in the match and stopped him from getting eliminated and assisted him in eliminating the last two guys. So your winner and possessor of the Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy is
a good trophy.
Matt Hardy.
It's a good trophy.
So that was the first
trophy.
Pretty big. It's like
Massive.
It's over 6 feet tall from the ground. It's insane. And of course, the first time it was there, they got brought out on Raw the next night. And of course, what everyone knows, if you see a trophy in the middle of a wrestling ring, that trophy is definitely going to get broken over somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what happened.
Yeah.
So the next match on the pre-show. So this isn't even the main show.
Still pre-show.
Still pre-show. So there was 3 matches on the pre-show. The first one was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. The next match was the culmination of the WWE Cruiserweight Championship Tournament.
Okay.
So, as well as Raw, SmackDown and NXT, they've also got a 4th live show that they do every week called 205 Live. So this is another show that's only available on the network.
Okay.
And it's basically all the cruiserweights. So they have anyone who's under the 205 bracket qualifies to be in this cruiserweight section of the the cruiserweight division is the best way to put it. So the previous champion was unceremoniously dumped by the company because he is in the middle of an ongoing sexual assault trial.
Wonderful stuff.
So not entirely sure what's going on with that. So he was stripped of the championship, and instead of just giving it to somebody else, they decided to have a tournament. I think it was like a 16-man elimination tournament.
Okay.
And it culminated with 2 finalists at WrestleMania. So we had Cedric Alexander going up against Mustafa Ali.
Okay.
So pretty good match, fairly sort of back and forth. 205 Live stuff's pretty good. In that it's high flying, a lot of moves in like in and around the ropes, a lot of like people jumping on people and spiking them into the ground with like hurricane ranas and dragon screw pile drivers and all sorts of stuff like that. So
such names.
The winner and new WWE Cruiserweight Champion was Cedric Alexander.
There we go.
Very good wrestler, very good at what he does. So he is the new WWE Cruiserweight Champion.
Boom.
The final match on the pre-show was the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. So because they've got the men's battle royal, and they're trying to do equality and all that, which is excellent moving forward.
Female wrestling
it's got loads better.
Has been like massively hyped over the last couple of years.
The last five years or so, it's been getting a bit of a push, mainly because the women are really good now. They put on matches as good, if not better, than the men more often than not. And they're not basically just there as eye candy anymore. So they're there because they've earned their spot, and they're doing really well with it.
Cool.
So this was the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. This is the first year they've done this, and a bit of a surprise winner for me. It was former SmackDown Women's Champion Naomi.
Really?
Who pulled out the win, last eliminating Bayley, who I think was a lot of people's favourite to win it.
Nice.
So within the first three matches, there was only one favourite, I suppose, to win it, who came out on top. So that was the pre-show, done and dusted.
Pre-show.
So we move on to the main card, and the first match of the night, you always want to start with like a nice hot match to get the crowd energised. You know, they've just seen 2 hours of, for want of a better phrase, fucking nonsense in the pre-show. So you want to start off with something hot. You know, it's going to be like, you know, a 15-20 minute knockdown, drag out affair of epic proportions. So they opened up with a triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship.
Nice.
So we have The Miz going in as champion,
right,
defending against Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. So Finn Balor is an Irishman, who's been around the block for a little bit. He used to wrestle in Japan as Prince Devitt.
Okay.
He was the leader of the Bullet Club. It was quite a big thing in wrestling at the moment. So it was those three facing off against each other in a triple threat match. We're going to change it up for the main event, for the main card. I'm going to tell you who was in the match, and you're going to guess who won the match. So you have The Miz as the champion, and the challengers are Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Who does Andrew Cook think wins the match?
I want to say Seth Rollins, but you gave the other guy quite a lot of
pepping up.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm going with Seth Rollins.
Andrew Cook says Seth Rollins.
Was that the winner?
Your winner and
new
Intercontinental Champion
is
Seth freaking Rollins. Well done. You picked correctly.
One for one. That's the only one I'm
so far. Andrew Cook is 1 for 1, which is better than I was doing at the time because I picked Finn Balor. So
did you put money on it?
I didn't, because Sky Bet no longer take it as an ACCA. So you can do individual bets, but all the bets are like 2 to 9, 1 to 10.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it. Whereas before, if you could do it as an ACCA, and put them all together and have the stuff rolling onto each other, then you could sort of potentially make a little bit of money out of it. But, so yes, so far you're 1 for 1 and doing better than I was.
Okay.
Right, the next match, another women's match. It was the SmackDown Women's Championship match, and it was Charlotte Flair. You may notice that name.
Absolutely no relation to Ric Flair.
Of course not. Definitely not his daughter.
Definitely not
his daughter, because, you know, why would they put the name Flair at the end? Because when she first came up, she was just known as Charlotte, and she's now basically going by the name Charlotte Flair because they want to cream all they can off of that surname. So, Charlotte Flair, the SmackDown reigning women's champion, going up against the Japanese sensation, the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. Little backstory. So Asuka was signed to NXT in about 2015, I think.
Okay.
Since she's been in the company, she is undefeated.
Really?
She has not lost for over 900 days.
Wow.
She was the winner of the first women's Royal Rumble earlier this year, which got her this match against Charlotte. So, predictions time.
I'm trying to think which is the better story. That she wins and takes the belt, or loses her winning streak. And I'm going to say Charlotte Flair.
Son of a bitch, he's 2 for 2.
Oh!
I am also 0 for 2 because I had Asuka to win this one. So, didn't really make a lot of sense to me, personally, because they've been building Asuka up for, obviously, the last 2 to 3 years. But she had to lose at some point, I suppose.
Yeah.
And for those who sort of know the rest and they already know this, for those who don't, which I'm going to assume is probably everybody listening to this, because no one cares about wrestling anymore, apart from, you know, me and a couple of my friends. So 4 years ago at WrestleMania 30, there was a little match between Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker.
There was.
Now, The Undertaker at this point had 21 matches at WrestleMania. Andrew, can you tell me how many matches at WrestleMania The Undertaker had lost of those 21?
Probably none.
0. So at that point, The Undertaker at WrestleMania
Undefeated.
was a foregone conclusion that he was winning that match, basically.
Yeah.
So, me and my friend Stu, who went to watch the wrestling, turned up. We hear The Undertaker's music. Brilliant. Gong. Lights go down.
Yeah.
Smoke comes out. He comes out with this really elaborate entrance.
Yeah.
And then you have the match. Obviously, you're thinking, right, so he's going to beat Brock Lesnar at some point, and then we're going to hear his music again, and he'll walk out, and the lights will go down. It'll be brilliant.
Yeah.
So Brock Lesnar hits him with 3 F5s, which is his finishing move,
Yeah.
and pins him, and the entire audience says fuck all.
Silence.
Pretty much. For about 5 to 10 seconds, there's just an audible, what the fuck? There's a picture, if you watch it, so you have to try and find it on the internet, because
I know what you're referring to.
there's a guy
Yep.
stood in the audience who literally has the most amazing look on his face.
So
it's like he's been told Santa Claus isn't real,
Yep.
the Easter Bunny's not real.
So I saw a video the other day that was weirdly, I think it was an advert for Virgin Media.
Right?
And the advert was the most shocked expressions at WrestleMania. And it showed
Amazing.
Brock Lesnar pinning The Undertaker, and it cuts to the guy in the audience.
Oh, it's
that looks like
amazing.
he's been shot in the face with a shotgun of what the fuck. Yeah, it's just amazing. His eyes couldn't be any wider.
Seriously. So that was the best thing about that was his reaction.
Yeah.
Me and my mate, so me and Stu just turned to each other and literally, I think he literally said, what the fuck was that shit? So I wasn't happy. So yeah, again, what we're thinking is that they're now building. They're sort of now building New Orleans as the place where streaks go to die. So that's 2. Obviously, they probably won't have another person that's got an undefeated streak at any point. So might just be those 2. But I suppose that's something they can now use going forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit of a shocker, but yeah. So the winner and retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship was Charlotte Flair. So moving swiftly on, we move to the 3rd match of the night. It was a fatal 4-way match for the United States Championship. So going into the match, we have the defending champion Randy Orton. Another name you're probably quite familiar with.
I do.
Everyone likes a nice RKO out of nowhere.
RKO out of nowhere.
And Mr. Orton himself was going up against 3 challengers. The glorious Bobby Roode, ex-champion. Jinder Mahal, former WWE champion. And Rusev, also a former United States champion. So we've got a little bit of pedigree in that, you know. All four men going into the match have held championships before. Andrew,
I'm going to say title retained.
Interesting.
Randy Orton.
So he's going for another retain of a championship this evening.
Yeah.
I'm afraid, Andrew, your winning streak has come to an end. You have lost this match. Your winner and new United States Heavyweight Champion, or United States Champion, Jinder Mahal. So, a little interesting fact about this one is the fact that this was the second time within 9 months that Jinder Mahal has beaten Randy Orton for a title.
Wow.
So, Jinder Mahal beat Randy Orton for the WWE Championship in about May, June last year. And that was a big shocker at the time, so people didn't see that one coming. And then people were just saying that, it's all because they want to be big in India. And he's an Indian, or of Indian descent.
Alright.
So I think people were saying it was more commercial than it was he deserved it or something like that. But that's a bit harsh against him. He'd worked really hard. He's got an insane body. Like he's ripped beyond belief. I think it's because he said he hasn't touched carbs in 18 years or something like that.
Jeez.
So, yes. So we move on to the next and possibly the best match of the card, in my opinion. Okay. This was a mixed tag team match between Triple H
here we go.
and his wife Stephanie McMahon.
Yes.
Going up against the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle and the debuting UFC former
Ronda
strawweight champion, I believe was her weight.
No idea.
Rowdy Ronda Rousey.
Ooh.
No, you say ooh. So
I'm not
the
sure
reason
about
why,
that.
the reason why she uses Ronda Rousey is because she grew up as a huge Roddy Piper fan.
Mm-hmm.
She used the nickname in the UFC for a little bit.
Yeah.
Having spoken to Roddy Piper, explaining that she grew up watching him and that she would be on, and then she just really liked him as a youngster. I'm pretty sure he gave his blessing for her to start using the term rowdy in a sort of ring entrance and stuff like that, and as a moniker moving forward. So yeah, so he gave his blessing for that to happen. So he passed away a couple of years ago.
True.
When she debuted at the Royal Rumble, she came out wearing his leather jacket that his son had given to her to wear on her first night, which was again pretty cool.
All right then.
She came to the ring in a kilt style skirt.
Okay.
As another little tribute to Roddy Piper. Probably, like I said before, probably the best match of the night. It was the longest match of the night. It went about 35 to 40 minutes.
This is going to be tough. So here's what I'm thinking. Ronda Rousey could wipe the floor with Stephanie McMahon. Like, up and down the ring all day, every day. Triple H doesn't lose. I got to a point where I got so bored of watching any match that had Triple H in, because at the end of the day he was just going to win. He was always going to win. He was going to walk away victorious no matter what it was, and it just got a bit boring to watch. But I can't imagine they're going to bring Ronda Rousey in on a loss. So I'm going to say Kurt Angle, Ronda Rousey
is the correct answer.
There you go.
Just interesting, going back to the Triple H thing there, they flew a graphic up on Twitter during WrestleMania week, and it was, I'll have to try and find it because I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it was wrestlers with most wins and most losses at WrestleMania. Triple H is in the top 3.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise
me. Both. So I think it was something like he's had 13 wins maybe,
right?
But he's also had like 12 losses at WrestleMania.
That's interesting, but I suppose that is at WrestleMania. You think about the number of pay-per-views over.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. If you take his win-loss record over his career, it's massively in the W's.
Yeah.
But interesting again, if you take his last 5 years at WrestleMania 30, lost in the opening match to Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania 31, he beat Sting in Sting's first ever match in the company. 32, lost in the main event to Roman Reigns. 33, so last year's event, lost to Seth Rollins. And this year, lost in a match to Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. So for the last 5 years, he's only won once. So he doesn't really win all that often, to be honest with you. At WrestleMania, he's lost his fair share. Again, very good match. Ronda Rousey probably better than I think a lot of people thought she was gonna be for her first match. She put together some pretty convincing stuff. At one point, she even got in there with Triple H himself and was pounding on him and making him look a little bit meh. So that was good. And yeah, definitely for me, best match of the night. That it was excellent. So the next match, we had the SmackDown Tag Team Championships up for grabs.
Okay.
So you've got the Usos are the champions.
They do my fucking praying.
That's Rikishi's boys you're talking about there.
Yeah, can they be less annoying? And then I might not feel that way.
I don't mind. They've got a lot better since they've stopped being faces and they're now heels. Or they're sort of in between at the minute. They're a bit of a tweener one.
Okay.
So it was those two going up against the New Day. So there's 3 guys in the New Day. So that's already confusing because you can only have 2 in the tag team match. So you have the New Day consists of Big E, Kofi Kingston, who you might have heard of, and Xavier Woods. So it was Big E and Kofi Kingston representing the New Day. Represent.
One of them had been on a training video that I'd seen because they'd train with
CT Fletcher?
Yeah. One of them.
Could be Big E. Big E's pretty big. He's a pretty big cat. And then they were also going up against a team called the Bludgeon Brothers. So two pretty big bruisers. Eric Harper and Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper used to hang around with Bray Wyatt in the Wyatt family. They've since broken off and they're now on their own as a tag team. They come out with, I'm sure someone said, Warhammers.
Alright.
I don't know if that's true though. They come out with these big mallet things. And I think they're supposed to be a little bit like Warhammer. But I don't know, I could be wrong in that.
Do they look like Thor's hammer but
sort
with
of
long handles?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're Warhammers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they come out with Warhammers and
Nice.
and then what else the ring and then just, kill everybody.
Sweet.
So, Usos, New Day, Bludgeon Brothers. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the guys swinging the hammers for this one.
Bludgeon Brothers. Getting the W.
Yeah.
And new tag team champions.
Yeah.
The Bludgeon Brothers. You'd be correct, sir.
No, okay, so
You're on a bit of a roll here, right? You've
Alright.
only got one wrong so far out of 5.
it's not bad.
So.
Oh yeah, I could have made some money off the
Oh no, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Right, so the next match was an unannounced match. So, for weeks leading up to WrestleMania, John Cena was going to the ring, chatting loads of shit about The Undertaker, calling him out, saying that he's got no balls, saying that his balls are kept in his wife's purse.
Can I just ask a question? Wasn't there a situation where The Undertaker was in a match that he lost, and if he lost it, I've probably done that the wrong way around, he had a match where if he lost it, he had to retire? Was that not a thing? Am I wrong?
Maybe. Was it? I'm trying to think now if it was a couple of years ago when he faced Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, and it was a case of if he didn't beat Shane, he'd have to retire. But if Shane won, Shane got control of the company.
Yeah, there was something.
And The Undertaker won. So obviously Shane didn't get control of the company, and The Undertaker carried on wrestling.
I thought he'd retired.
I'm sure it was that.
Anyway.
But yeah, either way. So yeah, for weeks John Cena was going on Raw, going on SmackDown, calling him out, calling him a dick, saying he was, not broken down and not beaten up and stuff like that. So he could definitely come and face him at WrestleMania. So Cena goes to the ring, calls him out again and stuff like that. Ooh, the lights go down.
No.
The lights go down, and then all of a sudden all you hear is ring, and out comes Elias.
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, don't surprise me. So Elias is a guy who was in NXT.
Okay.
Came up to the roster maybe 6 or so months ago, maybe a little bit longer. And his gimmick is that he's a drifter who plays guitar.
Oh, okay.
So he basically looks like a homeless person pretty much all the time.
Brilliant.
Has very long hair tied back in like a sort of a bun.
Mm-hmm.
Wears a lot of scarves. A lot of loose fitting clothings.
Okay.
So Elias comes out playing his guitar, winding the crowd up, winding up John Cena. So John Cena snaps and gives him the old FU finish, or the old attitude adjustment as it's called now.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to walk out, and as he's walking back up the ramp, the lights go out again, and then all of a sudden you just hear, oh no, that was it. The lights went out. The lights come back on, and in the ring is the Undertaker's hat and coat that from last year's WrestleMania, after he'd lost against Roman Reigns, he took off his hat and coat and his gloves, and he put them in the ring, and he left them there as if to sort of symbolise that he was done. Mm-hmm. That he was going in with it and he was going away. So lights come back up in the ring, and there's his coat and gloves and stuff, and his hat and his hat. And then all of a sudden, lightning bolt hits the stack of things in the ring, sets them on fire. Ooh. And then you hear the gong, and he's there. His music starts, and he starts making his way down to the ring. You have John Cena pops back in there with the ref.
Okay.
We have a little sort of 2-3 minute match where the Undertaker just basically takes him to pieces.
I was going to say, absolutely destroys John Cena.
Gives him a tombstone. The old 1, 2, 3. Everyone goes home happy because everyone hates John Cena.
Yeah.
And everyone loves the Undertaker.
Yeah.
And there you go. That is the end of that section of the pay-per-view. John Cena gets beat by the Undertaker.
Obviously.
So, what have we got left? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 matches left.
Whoa.
What are you thinking?
Might have to pull the ripcord on that.
Do you
one.
reckon?
Might have to.
Two-parter.
To be continued.
To be continued. 5 matches. Were they any good?
5 matches, were they any good?
Did anything interesting happen?
Did anything happen?
I mean, you have to tune.
Did any championships change hands?
Did any championships change hands?
Oh, here we go.
Now there is the question. So yeah,
right.
We'll have to tune in next week.
Tune in
to find out.
Next bat channel, is it? I don't know. Right.
Same bat time.
That's it.
Same bat channel.
There you go. Right. We'll call it a day there, and we'll pick it back up with the 5 remaining matches.
Marvelous.
And SmackDown and Raw. To be continued.
Boom.
Bye-bye.
So there you go. What do you think to that? End of part 1 of the WrestleMania Cookiecast special. Interesting, hey? So give us a shout on the old website, thecookiecast.com. We've got all our media outlets on there. Give us a shout. Tell us what you're thinking. Did you like the special? Are you digging the special format? Because I have a feeling that there's going to be a few coming up in the future. Give us a shout. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us if you're digging it. Tell us what you're not liking. And we'll keep trying to put together podcasts that you guys want to listen to. So give us a shout. But until then, tune into our part 2 of our WrestleMania special. And that's coming up next. So until then, bye-bye.